motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. An update from former unified bantamweight champion Dena Thorslund. She said, "Last Wednesday, we hoped to get a third picture of the booming life. Now we have pictures of week 4, week 5, and week 12. But it wasn't supposed to go that way, unfortunately. Week 11 plus 1, I started to bleed a little, and it developed into a spontaneous abortion. The feelings are big and sad, but life happens, and then we have to keep up with it and adapt in the best way. I know I need to take care of myself, so do I and my family, but I also need to work on something. That's why I asked my manager at MVP to contact my promoters and asked boxing to get my titles back before the new year. It's Shernika Johnson who is holding them for me right now, and it's a match I'm very much looking forward to. Not only my opportunity to box..."
Wait, so she wants to go straight in? No tune-up?
"This gave me extreme motivation, and this whole process has poured more gasoline on the fire. I'm always best in adversity. That's where I work the hardest, and right now I can fight my way out of sorrow through boxing. You're gonna see a brand new version of me for my next fight."
In my previous video, I talked about what effects the pregnancy could have on Dena Thorslund, not realizing all of this was going on in the background, that by the time I uploaded that video, this already happened.
Where I felt that she would be out for 9 months or more and wouldn't return until the following year. She wants to return this one, before this one is over, and she wants Shernika, so that definitely changes things. Tragedy does have a way of motivating some people. All that pent-up rage and anger, she wants to channel it through her boxing, sporting an unblemished record of 23 wins with no losses and no draws, 9 knockouts. Dena Thorslund is a fighter who, before all of this, I heavily favored to beat anybody and everybody at 118. Last in action in October of last year. You have to figure that if they get her back out in October of this one, a year's time will have passed.
No tune-up.
Can MVP do it? Can they deliver this fight to Dena before this year is out? It is the very best fight to make at 118 pounds right now.
Can Dena win?
Shernika Johnson, otherwise known as Sugar Neeks, really seems to have hit her stride. She's been looking more and more dominant, fight by fight, more and more aggressive, but Dena Thorslund has a mean streak herself. She can be aggressive too, but not just aggressive.
Oh, not just.
She knows how to use her opponent's aggression against them. That if you want to barrel forward throwing punches and bunches at Dena, she's good off the counter and she's a strong puncher. Stronger, I think, than Shernika Johnson.
That's what we saw in the Serene Satine fight in May of last year. Serene Satine, a come-forward pressure fighter, thought she could outdog Dena Thorslund and instead got outclassed.
Could that happen to Shernika Johnson with the added motivation of this tragedy? Could that be enough for Dena to bring Shernika Johnson's undisputed reign to an abrupt end?
So now MVP's ability to promote these girls will really be tested. You know, it's one thing to have Katie and Amanda in the main event, headlining, because you know they're gonna draw.
And it's another thing to have your fighters fighting on the undercard of a big Jake Paul fight, because you know he's an attraction himself. He's gonna draw too. I want to see how MVP means to promote all these girls they just signed.
This is an amazing fight, by the way.
This would be a great addition to the undercard of Amanda Serrano's next fight or Jake Paul's next fight. Believe me, this fight won't disappoint. But the question is,
who wins?
Like I said, Shernika Johnson has really hit her stride in her last few fights, but Dena Thorslund, before we got here, was the most dominant force at these weights.
The best.
And she's back with a vengeance. We'll talk more about the fight once the fight is made.
I'm looking forward to it.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, boxing insider Rick Glacier took to his social media and stated, "Several are asking whatever happened to Leonard Ellerbe, as he's completely vanished from the boxing scene. First off, I didn't think anyone actually cared. Secondly, Ellerbe way overstayed his boxing existence. Third,
who really gives a fuck?
And fourth, Ellerbe's been smartly jettisoned by all that had the unfortunate situation of knowing him.
Leonard is a guy who came into prominence during the Mayweather era, being Floyd Mayweather's towel boy, his gopher,
Which eventually landed him the lofty position as CEO of Mayweather Promotions and all of Mayweather's fighters back when he had fighters, because I don't think he has any now.
Yeah, he's got Curdled Milk. What's his name? Kermel Moten.
It was in June of last year that news broke Leonard Ellerbe would be stepping down as CEO of Mayweather Promotions. This was after Gervonta Davis parted ways with the promotional company. It would seem that Leonard left Mayweather Promotions with the hopes that he could stay in the Gervonta Davis business, but I guess that didn't last.
Now he's MIA.
When Rick Glacier says that Leonard overstayed his welcome in the sport of boxing, I know exactly what he means. He was just a guy who was riding Floyd Mayweather's coattails in Floyd Mayweather's heyday, but he didn't have enough substance.
Didn't have no staying power because he didn't have no substance. There wasn't a lot to this guy. He was a kid with a play phone playing businessman.
What Leonard reminds me of is those late 90s and early 2000s hip-hop acts. You might have one guy who hits it big because he's actually got some talent, and then he tries to bring all his buddies along.
Like Nelly did with the Saint Lunatics. Nas with the Bravehearts.
And you notice that none of the guys in those groups, if you even want to call them that, had any kind of staying power of their own because they were more like backup dancers than band members.
And that's what Leonard was. A backup dancer. A backup dancer for Floyd when Floyd's name meant something.
All from hanging around Floyd. Get yourself a nice suit, get your goatee all nice and tape it up. You wear sunglasses indoors, get to use big words whenever they point a mic in your face. Act like you know what you're talking about when at the very most you're an employee. Glorified secretary. The PBC and TMT, if that's even still a thing, could no longer afford to indulge him. With Fox jettisoning PBC from their platform and Showtime doing the same, they could no longer afford to indulge the Leonard Ellerbes of the world.
How do I know? He's MIA.
You know, PBC can have their problems and TMT can have them too, but if you had any actual business acumen, you'd still be out there on the field, doing your own thing, building your own brand, and maybe signing your own fighters, doing your own promotions, if you had any actual ability.
I'm just calling a spade a spade. It sounds harsh, but there's no nice way for me to say any of this.
Leonard was the guy who used to call the zone dead zone. He's the guy who used to say that Eddie Hearn doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's the guy that used to say all of that.
Remember?
It's not retaliation for Eddie Hearn or Matchroom. It's just confirmation of what I already thought and what I've been telling you for years. You got this glorified coffee maker trying to play big man on campus when his claim to fame is being Floyd Mayweather's employee, his towel boy, and now he's MIA. I'm not surprised.
Just speaking of guys that are MIA.
Two-division champion and Hall of Fame inductee Timothy Bradley said, "I've heard that Spence will come out of retirement. Errol, don't come back unless you need the money. You don't need boxing. You've already done enough. In the end, it will be your decision, like Manny and all the others who come out of nowhere looking for Turkey's money. It's for your health."
This past Tuesday marked 2 years to the day of the great fish fry, the great beating that Terrence Crawford put on Errol Spence Jr.
The one that I forecasted for approximately 5 years in the build-up. I've got the videos to prove it. And it's been 2 years already, so now rumors abound. Errol means to come back. Timmy says that he shouldn't unless he needs the money. I'm of the opinion that's the only reason he would come back. He's not coming back for legacy. He's not coming back to fight for anybody's belts. If he is coming back,
It's gotta be for money.
Errol was another one of these guys that got talked up to obscene proportions. Some people even said he replaced Canelo as the face of boxing, but if you review his pay-per-view sales before he fought Terrence Crawford, he can't have been so well off that he's set for life. His pay-per-view sales were modest at best.
Unless this guy's really good with money, which most athletes are not.
You tell me Errol's coming back, I'll tell you it's gotta be because he needs money. The well is starting to run dry, and this is all he knows. He did decent numbers in his pay-per-view debut with Mikey Garcia. I believe it was 300,000 plus. But every fight that he had after that, the numbers started to nosedive. The numbers came in smaller and smaller. 200 and change, just above 200.
He's really coming back?
Well, that's what Timmy's hearing around the campfire. I don't really know. I'm just assuming that If he is coming back, it's gotta be for money. It's not for passion. It's not for love of the sport.
He lost all of that a long time ago.
It's not for legacy. It's not to prove that he's the best, that he's still one of the best, or to fight for somebody's alphabet titles. It would have to be for money. And he's gonna have to be very, very careful if he is coming back. I remember he once said that he doesn't believe in tune-up fights. Well, he better start.
Because he needs one.
Well, I think after 2 years, he needs 2, maybe 3. He can't come back as a welter. He can't make welter anymore. He's gonna have to come back as either a junior middle or a middle.
And not against middles either. You can't put him in there against a solid junior middleweight or a solid middleweight. You gotta bring somebody up for him.
Put him in there with Keith Thurman. He's still hanging around.
Yeah, Keith Thurman earlier this year had a tune-up fight of his own in Australia against Brock Jarvis. Even a Thurman fight feels like something you might have to build Errol up to. That you can't just put him in there cold.
Don't know how seriously I can take any of these comeback talks, because if Errol is to come back, who's gonna train him? He's not with Derek James anymore. That dispute over money, all the money Errol didn't pay him.
Is he really coming back?
Well, I mean, Manny Pacquiao just came back after a 4-year hiatus. Gary Russell just came back after a 3-year hiatus. So Errol coming back after 2? It's not outside the realm of possibility, and it is in keeping with the PBC's decorum. Their stable has grown so thin.
This is what they have to resort to. I don't put it past them, and I don't put it past him because, like I said,
he only ever really had modest success at the box office. It was never astronomical, and the biggest fight that he was ever in that sold the most was the one that he lost 2 years ago.
so it's possible.
Doesn't really matter how much you were making when you were making whatever it was you were making. Poor spending habits.
They all end the same way.
If he actually does come back, are we looking at a title run or a one and done? Because if he comes back as a junior middle, that is a hostile environment. A particularly hostile environment.
Who at junior middleweight? I mean, what fight at junior middle can he win?
Not sure. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, putting the cart before the horse. These are just rumors. It should be treated as such. This is just something Timothy Bradley heard. We'll see if there's any substance to it. And just in keeping with the theme of rumors that are out there, strong rumors indicate that the champion of the vacant people, Xander Zayas, could be making his first defense against Giovani Santillian. Yes, the same one who was knocked out by Brian Norman Jr. in his bid for the interim welterweight crown. Brace yourselves for another super mega Caribbean Aztec war, or at least that's what the poster will say. Will this be the defense that consolidates Zayas, or just a process with a Mexican passport included? Sharpen your keyboards. The commentary is going to be better than the fight.
Xander Zayas himself has been advocating for a unification match with Sebastian Fundora, who he was originally supposed to fight for the WBO title.
Sebastian still is WBC champion, even though he dropped the brown belt. He's still got the green one, and that's still a great fight to make. But this isn't.
On the predication that the rumor is true, and so soon after his fight with Jorge Garcia, they're now planning his next fight, that would also have to mean that Top Rank is about to finalize their broadcast deal with whoever their next broadcaster is going to be, if you're already planning fights for the fall.
If they're really going to do this, it doesn't communicate confidence in Xander's ability. Putting him in there with Giovani, who barely did anything as a welterweight and has done absolutely nothing as a junior middle. He wasn't even a big welterweight either, like Boots.
Oh, tonight at a Brian Norman fight, Brian looked bigger than him.
So how much bigger is Xander gonna look than Giovani? Xander's actually a big junior middle. He doesn't pack a big punch, but he does have generous dimensions for a 154-pounder.
This would have to be a voluntary defense of his newly obtained WBO title?
All the pressure's on him. You saw how violent the knockout was in the Brian Norman fight, that Brian Norman made short work of Giovani Santillian, so that if he's now fighting a 154-pounder, a big one, the expectation would be that Xander should knock him out. Don't play with your food. Get this guy out of there. And Xander, not being that big a puncher, he doesn't knock people out.
This is not a good look.
But at the same time, I don't know how true this rumor is. Everybody claims to have sources now. Everybody claims to have somebody on the inside feeding them intel. What some content creators resort to funnel traffic to their pages, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram. The moment the social media platforms started allowing people to monetize their accounts, be it Instagram or Twitter, really any social media, every boxing fan turned into Sporty Lewis.
Bert Sugar. Everybody's got sources. Everybody's in the loop, in the know.
Why would they send Giovani to junior middle? I suppose it's because Top Rank doesn't have much of a stake in the welterweight division. All they have is Brian Norman. And we know what he's about to do. He's about to fight Devin Haney. So if you're Giovani and they can't do nothing for you, and they may be looking to promote Xander and Xander's fights by hearkening back to that age-old Mexico versus Puerto Rico rivalry, except this is hardly De La Hoya versus Trinidad.
Salvador Sanchez versus Wilfredo Gomez.
The thing with Xander is he's still very young. He's only 22 years old, and he's already a world champion. I don't think his man's strength has really come in because, like I always say, you're not as strong at 22 as you will be at 25 or as you will be at 30. So when Xander goes in there and he doesn't seem to have much power, that could be why.
That, and he fights on the balls of his feet. He doesn't stand in one spot. So when you're moving around, you're not sitting on your punches and you're not generating that much power. Xander is a boxer after all, not a brawler.
He's a big 154, and I don't think he's going to be there much longer in spite of what big fights are there. Fight with Sebastian Fundora or a fight with Virgil Ortiz. I get the sense that all these kids are going to end up at middleweight anyway.
Really? So soon after he won a WBO title?
Yeah, look at Keyshawn Davis. He won the WBO title in his last fight, and before he even got to defend it, he has to move up. He has to move up to 140. I don't think Xander is going to be at 154 all that long. And you don't need to fret for what fights he might be missing out on, because I think all those guys at 154 are going to end up at 160. Sebastian, Virgil, Boots at some point, depending on how his junior middleweight campaign goes.
I think Sergey Boachuk is already on his way there. He missed weight for his last fight.
So you know. I don't really know what to say about these rumors about a Santillian fight, except that if they're true, that kind of fight does not communicate confidence in Xander. Why would you put him in there with him?
It's pointless.
I get that they can't all be big fights or dangerous opponents, and I get that you're still grooming Xander, but 154 is too deep a division for something like this. I hope it's not true.